Hey, hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video, and this video I'm going to be talking about this article that says, or ask the question, were fans too harsh with the Star Wars Phantom Menace being the first movie in the Star Wars prequels? Um, Before I go in to the article, because I don't know if I'll be swayed or not, but with my reasoning towards the end. But before reading this article, I gotta say, I don't exactly think they're exactly. Some fans might have been too harsh on the film. I think where fans were too harsh in were the performances by Jake Lloyd and Eamon Best. Because it's not their fault for Anakin and Jar Jar to be not where you guys thought they would be. It's a creator's fault of the movie being George Lucas. Now, George, I'm not. That's not a knock towards George Lucas. It's just that's how I feel. I Even though I was like 3 when the Phantom Menace came out, I didn't watch Star Wars until I was 11. Really got into Star Wars and watched the Star Wars movies. I always saw snippets of Star Wars here and there within the first 6 movies, but never set my ass down, watched it from beginning to end. So the question begs: do I think fans were too harsh on the Phantom Menace? Yes and no. I think more so yes, in the terms of they were too harsh on some of the actors. In my opinion. Especially Jake Lloyd. Because, I know, at first some people bullied him, and he was a fucking kid. Seriously. That was, too much, man. Too much. People shouldn't do that. Morally, people shouldn't do that. Just because they didn't like his portrayal of Anakin. And then, Eamon Bez got so bad that he was considering killing himself at one point. Some people are just dumbasses, and the people who went after Eamon Best, and Jake Lloyd, those people were dumbasses. Really went after them. Not bullied them. The people who bullied Eamon Best and Jake Lloyd were dumbasses, in my opinion. Anyways, let me read. It's no secret that fans have been harsh on Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace. People had picked up on this film from their heavily ridiculed ode to Jar Jar Binks to criticizing the continuous dumb luck young Anakin experienced. However, 23 years later, fans wonder, did we judge the movie too harshly? Here's an inside look of Star Wars fan discussions. Fans who expressed an apathetic no. One user said, it sucked unnecessarily with disposed characters. If the Star Wars series The Clone Wars were live action, it would have made much better prequels than the seeming piece of garbage. Another replies, nah, it's terrible. Every character acts like a moron. The villain's schemes makes no sense, and the dialogue is cringe-inducing. Nevertheless, the Plank review is better than actually watching The Phantom Menace. And the third one says, not to me. It was awful, particularly Jar Jar Binks and the terrible acting by the young Anakin. But even outside of that, it felt gimmicky and overblown with CGI. That said, it's no longer the worst Star Wars film since Rogue One: A Star Wars Story came out. At least Phantom Menace had a plot. That I have to disagree with, because the Rogue One: A Star Wars Story was good. It had a plot. Solo Star Wars Story. This person would have had a better comparison, but I have to respectfully disagree with them. Because yes, the execution could have been better, but I thought the movies were pretty decent. Revenge of the Sith was the best. Attack of the Clones was better than the Phantom Menace, and I do think that the prequels did rely too heavy on CGI, and I think that's where one of the main issues lies with the prequels is that use they heavily use CGI more than they probably should. There was no practical effects really, it feels like, and even when seeing the behind the scenes, at least most of the time we see blue screen, the characters in blue screen, and even the characters, the actors said that too. Even McGregor said that it was easier to act in Kenobi than was in the prequels because it was mostly blue green screen. So that I will give them. Overuse of CG or backdrop, whatever. And then people who always loved the Phantom Menace. It was the only prequel film I enjoyed. One user said, confirmed. Another stated, as a kid, I watched my dad's VHS tapes of the original trilogy most weekends. So I saw episode 1 in the cinema when I was a preteen and I loved every second of it. The Duel of the Fates had been burned into my mind ever since that day. I still absolutely loved it. They continued, I tried to keep that in mind with the new trilogy. Maybe it's just not for me, but I can't deny that's not an explanation for just Nav writing and changing directors and direction. I don't know. Maybe I'll watch the sequel trilogy with my kids in a few years and enjoy them. So they're being optimistic in that for the sequel trilogy as well. Then mixed reviews from Star Wars fans. Fan expressed, I think the only thing people were too harsh on was Jar Jar Binks. Poor Phil Lamore, supposedly, he wanted to... It wasn't Phil Lamore, it was Ahmed Best. Phil Lamore played Samurai Jack as Rhombus Rose. Anyways, replacing Phil Lamore with Ahmed Best. Poor Ahmed Best, supposedly he wanted to kill himself due to overwhelmingly negative reception of his character. But then again, George Lucas overdid it with him. After all, he did say, I may have gone too far in some places. So, that part is on George, not Ahmed. And I have to agree. And that actually also leans into, part of what I was saying earlier. I think the treatment of Ahmed Best and Jake Lloyd were too harsh. Too harsh. You couldn't say that, okay, Jake Lloyd's acting wasn't the best. He could have had improvement, but he was a kid. He had a lifetime of potentially, becoming a actor now, where he could have honed in his craft. Sure, in the Phantom Menace, acting was It was cringy as hell. I will say this, and I will stick by this. The Phantom Menace, in terms of acting, was the worst movie I've seen Liam Neeson in. In terms of acting. I liked Liam Neeson's acting better in the Batman Begins movie. And every other movie I've seen Liam Neeson in. But in The Phantom Menace, Liam Neeson's acting was cringe and at his best. Another thing from mixed fans. The story was pretty good, the politics were solid and enjoyable, the wooden dialogue was funny, and it somehow worked. Also, the lightsaber choreography was top notch and set a standard for the Attack of the Clones and Rogue One, a Star Wars story, going forward. But Drake Lloyd hit the ball out of the park with how he portrayed a troubled Anakin, they concluded. And I have to agree, I did enjoy Jake Lloyd's take, even though, yes, I would argue that Jake Lloyd could have, improved, and he had a room for improvement. But nevertheless, I did enjoy Jake Lloyd's take, so I agree with this one too. Lucas is a world builder, not a director, so the story arc of the entire trilogy is impressive. The telling of the story is okay at best. And I can see that. Phantom Menace reminds me of Godfather 3, an excellent story, awesome themes, and great ideas. However, the script needed a good rewrite, which it didn't have. Thus, it all falls apart at the seam. And there are moments where I will have changed for sure. Um, the script for sure. So, however you watch the sequel trilogy, you realize how brilliant George Lucas is, and how much they needed his guiding hand, and how brilliant prequel trilogy is. Yes, agreed. Do you know how some good movies have terrible moments? Unfortunately, Venom Menace is one of those awful movies with good moments. Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul are the film's highlights. Yeah, Qui-Gon, well, in terms of acting wise, that was Liam Neeson's worst performance in the movies. It was Liam Neeson later on, I feel like, redeemed himself as Qui-Gon Jinn in the Clone Wars cartoon and in the Tales of the Jedi. But yeah, I feel like when we think of the Phantom Menace, we think people's minds immediately go to Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, and potentially Anakin and Palpatine. So the thing is, yes, we were too harsh on the Phantom Menace. We were on 1 user a minute. The Darth Maul fight was one of, if not the best, lightsaber scenes. The music, the pause mid fight that shows how both sides deal with waiting. The defeat of the light side putting the doubt in the light side winning. Then the light side winning, all very epic. Imagine, if you will, a world where Star Wars fans weren't so harsh on the prequels. A world that accepted them for what they were and perhaps even praised them. Then we may have gotten a proper sequel trilogy, one that felt connected and told a fluid, continuous story. We were undoubtedly too harsh on Lucas after that. Way too harsh. I agree with that particular statement. We were too harsh on Lucas. And yeah, I feel like it's okay to be critical. And the prequels has their criticisms for sure. But I think the I think if we were less harsh, like if the fan base was less harsh on Lucas, then yeah, we probably wouldn't have gotten it sold, Lucasfilm sold. We would have had, at least as soon as it did, we probably would have had the sequel trilogy, and then Lucasfilm. George Lucas sold Lucasfilm, whether it was to Fox or to Disney, Nickelodeon, whatever. I think that if the harsh fans weren't as harsh, then we would have got the Lucas cut of the sequel trilogy to fruition before him selling the product. Because I think George Lucas would have sold Lucasfilm regardless. Because for the reason that he would want Star Wars to continue beyond him. But I think the only difference between that scenario and right now is that George Lucas would have made his sequel trilogy into fruition before selling Lucasfilm off. So that's just me, I don't know. And it says yes, it was a 8.5 out of 10. It clearly gets more beautiful in the sequels. A third commentator noted, yes, and I got one reason that will counter anyone who says otherwise. The Duel of the Fates. So I am in the camp where more so in the mixed reviews and the yes, we were too harsh on the Phantom Menace categories in here. Like I said, I don't think the Phantom Menace is the worst Star Wars movie out there. But I don't think it's amongst the best per se. I mean, if you're bringing like in terms of like the first six Star Wars movies, if you're bringing the Disney Star Wars era, then yeah, it's amongst the best. It's among the better. I'm sorry, but like the only movie that I would consider from Disney that's amongst the best of Star Wars is Rogue One. It's Rogue One. For me, and maybe if you guys want me to, I can do my personal ranking for Star Wars. For Star Wars, it being like a two-parter. The first part being like the Lucas era, and then the second part being the Disney era, which includes the first six movies, of course. But that's just me. So do I think fans were too harsh on the sequels? Yes. Yes, I think that he was. I think the Phantom Menace was judged too harshly. I don't think Amen, Amen Fate, Amen. The guy who played Jar Jar and Anakin in the movie deserved to get bullied. I think they did a really decent job. Um, I think the Phantom Menace, like, it has its problems. Like I said, for me, the Phantom Menace was Liam Neeson's worst movie in terms of acting, and the acting, yes, could have been better. Overall, it could have been better. I'm in that boat. The acting could have been better, but I can see where the story was. I can tell you guys the plot of the Phantom Menace in like a few moments, kind of contradicting that I don't want them in the this and no where it says Phantom Menace didn't have a arc. It did. It did. Easy. The Trade Federation wanted to invade Naboo, and they wanted Queen Amidala to essentially pass a bill that made their invasion legal, and it was up to Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Padme, essentially young Anakin, and essentially the Republic to stand up against, or the good guys, the early rebellion, the pre-rebellion, to stop the the bad guys from getting their way. The Trade Federation from making their invasion legal, and they did. And it also served as a way that, hey, this is how we found Anakin. This is how Anakin essentially started his Jedi journey. That took me what 40 seconds to like a minute, give or take. Me just explaining the Phantom Menace, the plot. Could have the execution been better? Sure. The execution of the Phantom Menace could have been better. The execution in Attack of the Clones could have been better. But I'm in the same boat. Like, I grew up on the prequels. I love the prequels. But I'm not gonna be like blind and saying they didn't have any problems. You don't know what you talk about if criticize that. No, the prequels had their issues, and that was one of their issues. So that said, what do you guys think? Do you guys think the Phantom Menace was criticized too harshly by fans? Let me know in the comment section down below. That said, I'm Gorget, so love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. And we'll catch you wonderful people later. Later, taters.